Open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. So we're going to open up those libel laws, folks, and we're going to have people sue you like you never got sued before.
This is an approach that is all about Trump. It is not actually a party thing or red and blue, even though we are often encouraged to think in those polarized terms. But just consider lifelong Republican Liz Cheney. Okay? She and her father are the pinnacle of the Republican Party. She was in Republican leadership in the Trump era, supported Trump in 2020. Right now, she's facing an orchestrated effort to abuse the power of the incoming administration to punish her. Because even though she supported Trump in 2020, she wouldn't join the Jan 6 coup and then held him accountable for it. Now, there's no public evidence that Cheney broke any laws in that work, no investigative reporting or credible testimony, and if there were, I would bring it to you, but there isn't for her. Yet some Republicans in Congress are now putting out materials simply asserting that as a member of Congress, she likely broke laws. Trump recently called for her to be jailed again. She's on his enemies list. And the Republicans helping Trump do not seem to care about the truth of those assertions or even the self-interest, if you want to call it that these tools are already being used against Republicans. So it could be them next. Something Mike Pence saw with the calls to hang Mike Pence and the assorted efforts against him. You could be the top of Trump's team and then next in line for the president, but it will not reduce the attacks if they decide to come after you. So Republicans are doing this and may rue the day. But that's just some of the pressure. We're also seeing people with big business interests warm to Trump right now. And these things are related. And there's also a potential way to stop this in its tracks. And I have all of this story for you tonight in this segment, in this report. But for the context, I want to show you many of these people in business and tech were on record warning against Trump. Now there are new tech donations pouring into him. Choreograph CEO visits to Mar-a-Lago. It's a big shift.
It's really dangerous to demonize the media. It's dangerous to call the media lowlifes. It's dangerous to say that they're the enemy of the people.
As an immigrant and a refugee, I certainly find this election deeply offensive.
There are some values which are really near and dear to your heart. It's foundational and something which you should never compromise on. And
it doesn't seem to have the sort of character that reflects well on the United States.
Presumably, they said those things at the time because they either believed them or thought that they were somehow right or right for their companies, but they're all now walking it back. Elon, of course, making the full switch. Now, Trump uses pressure. He uses lawsuits and intimidation tactics. That's been true his whole career. He thinks it works. That's part of why he wasn't new to some of these political pressure techniques when he first ran for president and was deemed new to politics, but not new to hardball tactics in court and elsewhere. And he used private civil suits, and there were accusations that he abused government power in his first term to go after Amazon, to try to punish the parent company of CNN. He relishes how this all works. Indeed, he has referred to the shift I'm telling you about, these critics under pressure turning with his own brand of sarcasm.
The first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something.
Now, it's one of those statements where he may not actually think his personality has changed. He's arguing they've changed. And Trump's gotten quite explicit, even radical, with threats of retribution against perceived foes. Doubling down when he was on defense after the insurrection, tech companies applied the standard, like normal policies. They draw lines at fomenting violence. So if you go on Facebook and do that, if you say, telling people to attack your neighbor violently, or in this case, the Capitol, you get booted, which he did. Remember, Trump sued Zuckerberg's Facebook over what you see on your screen, being suspended for 2 years after Jan 6. He began lumping Facebook in with the enemy talk that he knowingly applies to Democrats and journalists, then saying Facebook was then an enemy of the people. He even threatened to throw Mark Zuckerberg in jail. That's the recent pressure campaign. And while some think that billionaires like Bezos and Zuckerberg have the power and money to confront and counter such tactics, they have clearly decided to try to give in to Trump, switching from that public criticism I showed you to meetings designed to show a warmth Bezos publicly praising Trump, Zuckerberg down at Mar-a-Lago. And while in general, let's be clear, possibly holding a meeting with an incoming government official or a president-elect can be a routine measure, for sure. But these are not routine meetings. For one, Trump has not even retracted the threats against these people he's meeting with, threats that would likely be illegal if carried out. Opening a case against someone because of their free speech about you is selective prosecution. Judges toss those cases. Imagine being a billionaire and still going to meet with someone who holds that position, threatening to ruin your company, career, and life, even with potential imprisonment. So that's not routine. Two, these meetings are not routine because Trump uses them to push around the billionaires. Take the very criminal insurrection that prompted Facebook to suspend Trump's account, as it does anyone who uses the platform to stoke violence. Trump found a way to make it seem like Zuckerberg might not view those convicted attackers and seditionists as negatively as he did when his company was booting Trump off the platform over that attack. And here's the context. Radical defenders of Jan 6 have claimed that the prisoners and defendants are the true victims. They even made a recording of inmates, prisoners, singing the national anthem. And the nonpartisan AP reported that Music for Trump sort of whitewashes Jan 6 with a song. And check this out. It was that prisoner rendition of the song which Trump had Zuckerberg kind of salute whether Zuckerberg knew it or not. After dinner at Mar-a-Lago, the Wall Street Journal reports, Zuckerberg and other attendees stood, hand over heart, as they played a rendition of the anthem sung by imprisoned defendants accused of crimes related to the Capitol riot. So in Trump's world, again, not a routine meeting, in Trump's world, Zuckerberg is now tied to that song, which is presented as some kind of propaganda tribute to people accused of or perhaps convicted of crimes against police and the nation. Trump also vowing pardons for all of them. Now, some might argue that the song is just more Trumpian theater. It's not actual policy, they might say, or not an FBI plan. But dig a little bit deeper, and you'll find that the song's anti-FBI agenda was first hatched by a group of Trump activists and vets, including Kash Patel. One of the producers, Kash Patel, who you see right there in the AP's report about him posting that, buy Taylor and the rest who spent millions for the coveted #1 spot because he thought the whitewashed Jan 6 song could go to the top of the charts. Now, the business people might be eating their own words and say this is just good for business. There are companies who argue they have a duty to only make money above all else, but these people are also being threatened by the president-elect. They may be obeying in advance to these tactics. Patel has openly talked about pursuing an enemies list that includes the free press, Trump launching these civil suits against journalists, the new suit I told you about against this newspaper pollster. And while Bezos' money and empire have little to do with politics or the press, Trump views him as a foe because he owns the Washington Post, which is a speck on his balance sheet. And Trump may benefit from fear or overreacting to things that haven't happened or haven't happened yet. He enters a second term with these more radical nominations, including Patel, and a clear set of plans to abuse federal powers.
Sometimes revenge can be justified. Everybody on that committee, for what they did, honestly, they should go to jail. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. If I happen to be president and I see somebody who's doing well and beating me very badly, I say, go down and indict them. I call my attorney general. I say, listen, indict him.
If you're president again, will you lock people up?
Well, I'll give you an example. The answer is you have no choice because they're doing it to us.
The answer is yes, another word for no choice, because they're doing it to him. That's the record and the news. But there's other news now, and I promise you, if some of what you just saw is familiar, this next part is probably the most significant, the most important. And I'm going to explain it to you as we always try to do around here in plain English. Trump has admitted and telegraphed these plans before even getting back into office. He has not president yet. Everybody knows that. The current president still has all the executive power of any president, even though they call it a lame duck. That means you know he's handing over power in January, but he has all the powers. They're not reviewable, some of the executive powers, not even by the Supreme Court. And Biden officials are mulling what could be a comprehensive plan to stop much of Trump's DOJ and FBI revenge plot, which I just showed you. This is a plan that could legally completely thwart the vows to abuse federal law enforcement and prosecution, to Trump-proof any potential misuse of authority. And if it is done broadly, I can tell you as a lawyer and legal reporter, it could checkmate and stop future federal probes in their tracks in the next Trump term. For real. Here's how it would work. President Biden would point to this ample evidence that Trump is already expressing a desire, an intent to abuse power, to illicitly prosecute people who have not broken any law, naming political targets, demanding jail, without even the pretense of naming a crime or respecting any investigation. So that would be an argument that he's already targeting democracy, free speech, and vowing what could be illegal selective prosecution. And two, President Biden could say this new threat, admitted by the president-elect, is unprecedented. And three, that the Supreme Court granted the incoming president new immunity for official acts, past and future. So President Biden could, under this plan, and I'm telling you, it is a pretty wide, sweeping, bold plan, but the idea would be President Biden could answer the Supreme Court with lawful action of his own, creating new legal terrain in response to new legal terrain. And here's how it would work. I told you, plain English. Under this plan, President Biden could grant his own immunity to people who serve the country in any branch of government, in any party, who now face this documented threat and prosecution. The argument is, facing unprecedented moves by the court and the president-elect vowing these big moves, that would require an unprecedented protection of public servants. Indeed, the Biden White House could literally quote from the Supreme Court immunity ruling about how officials need some immunity from future prosecution to do their jobs. Biden could thwart a probe of Cheney or Jack Smith or other government veterans on any MAGA enemies list, quote unquote. He could do it with this comprehensive lawful use of the pardon power, issuing new preemptive pardons to stop the kind of DOJ prosecutions I just showed you they're threatening. Remember, federal probes are predicated on investigating a federal crime. If the so-called politically made-up crimes here are already pardoned, boom, you're pulling that crime right out of the legal process. If there's no threat of conviction and jail at the end of that probe, it's been pre-pardoned, then there's not much federal action there. Now, these are uncharted waters. The incoming president knows he has the immunity that he got supersized by the Supreme Court and is vowing to abuse power. An immunity that's broader, really, than anyone's seen before, with a guy making threats that go way past Nixon. So the Biden plan to preempt the abuse of those probes and thwart these revenge cases is on the table. Biden could legally do it alone. Unlike many other things you hear about, Congress and the courts are not involved in these executive pardon clemency powers. And Biden aides are reportedly considering a version of this plan. We don't know how narrow or broad. It has been reported sometimes in narrow terms. A couple of pardons here or there, or you could hit the whole enemies list, or write something broad enough to protect, like I said, people who served in government that are facing basically the kind of attacks that the Supreme Court said they should be immune from, at least in the presidential example. And all legal roads seem to lead back to January 6th. That's because Trump and Patel and these others are on a mission to try to undo what remains the greatest democracy crisis in the last century and you can tell from the way they act, the greatest problem for Donald Trump, the worst thing he's done, according to many Republicans. We've played the quotes here. So they want to basically try to reverse that convicted sedition in mind and law. And you should note, when I say all roads lead back, this pardon reporting includes exploring pardons for basically creating a type of immunity for leaders of the Jan 6 committee who faced tremendous pressure. You see Schiff and Cheney and others, Milley, who spoke out, and that would be dealing with pardons in both parties. Now, what you're hearing in this reporting is the news. The White House is considering this, and what I just mentioned, the arguments by advocates, people for this. I can also report for you that some legal experts who are well outside of MAGA also oppose this plan to Trump-proof the DOJ that I just told you about. There are Washington observers who say it just carries the risk of implying guilt to the very people who were doing the honest, good investigative work in the government, that it could set a dangerous precedent. There are lawyers who argue this is not the right way to protect long-term DOJ independence, nor present the nation with any kind of clarity. Indeed, that's a DOJ vet, Sarah Isker, who's been rumored among some of these lists saying, I don't want the pardon even if you offered it, because it's not the right way to do it. President Biden has weeks now to decide yes or no to a plan that's clearly being considered. So to inform understanding of this plan, which could fundamentally alter Donald Trump's revenge plots in the second term, a very high-stakes thing where this current President Biden is no lame duck, and with these reported risks on both sides, we're going to hear this out, this debate, with legal experts with opposing views when we're back in 90 seconds.
Travel can make you smell kind of funky, but aluminum-free Secret Whole Body Deodorant gives me 72-hour whole body freshness. For long layovers, surprise gate changes, and heavy luggage. And it's totally middle seat approved. Secret, no sweat.
You make good choices. They've shaped your journey to leave all that your life built rock solid for generations. With ambition like that, you need someone who elevates advice to a craft. At UBS, we match your vision with insight and expertise to shape a unique outcome for you. Advice is our craft.
Hello, Hunter.
Oh, no. Such a good boy.
Think we should wait or
Open it.
it looks just like him.
Holiday memories made by Alexis. Brought to you by Etsy.
Sounds like you need to vaporize that cold.
Dayquil VapoCool?
It's Dayquil, plus a brush of Vicks Vapors.
Dayquil VapoCool. The vaporizing, daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, power through your day medicine.
Honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think
I think
should go to
everybody.
jail.
If he offers it to me or other members of the committee, I think I would accept it.
I don't think pardons are necessary.
We are joined now for this big debate over Trump proofing the DOJ and revenge plans with pardons by some real legal heavy hitters. Paul Rosenzweig is a former Deputy Assistant Secretary at DHS. And looking at this plan, he has an Atlantic piece saying Biden should pardon Trump's critics now. We're also joined by former federal prosecutor Frank Bowman. He's writing a book about the pardon power and argues the other side, writing the case against Biden pardoning everyone on Trump's enemies list, piece for Slate. Welcome to both of you. You guys are lawyers, so I'm sure you're going to love debating.
For sure. We're also
For sure.
good friends, so it's not going to be too tough a debate. So
good. Paul, your opening statement.
Pardoning Trump's critics would be a completely unusual and different use of the pardon power. But it's time, I think, to think about whether or not existing authorities need to be applied in new and different ways because Trump is a new and different threat. Right? Trump has already abused the pardon power immensely in his first term, pardoning Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, the whole 9 yards, Steve Bannon of his acolytes. Now he's threatening to throw the entire weight of the Department of Justice and the FBI behind investigations of people who, by any measure, are utterly innocent of any wrongdoing. Now, one answer to that is, well, that's okay. Then the court system will make it fine in the end, and they'll come out at the end of the day with an acquittal. But as anybody who's ever been a prosecutor or been under investigation knows, the costs of the investigation itself are immense in terms of time, money, mental stress on you and your families.
And let's be clear, I'll jump in on that evidentiary point. Regular citizens, someone who was number 5 or 10 in the Jack Smith probe, if they are targeted, it's bankrupting. I mean, there's no money to do a multi-year real case when you have the federal government going at you.
So I guess I would end my opening statement this way. It seems to me that faced with the unusual authoritarian impulse that Donald Trump has given voice to, that has been made more clear by his promises to appoint Kash Patel as FBI director and Pam Bondi, an election denier, as DOJ Attorney General. It's at least incumbent upon Biden morally and ethically to protect those who are at risk because they were on his side.
Right, and that goes to the immunity argument. I'm not saying this is an
ideal solution.
Right, not ideal. Frank, it's the holiday season. I'm going to get more lawyerly than usual. I'm going to say arguendo, okay? Arguendo. For the sake of argument, let's stipulate that you care about the rule of law, oppose attacks on democracy, all the rest. Let's clear that out and say you care about all that, but this is a bad idea. Why?
It's a bad idea because, first of all, it does create a terrible precedent, and I think we should not necessarily, as Paul suggests the contrary, I don't think we should necessarily do unprecedented things as president to anticipate unprecedented bad things that Trump might do. The precedent it creates is essentially the threat of creating in the future what we call a regime of impunity, essentially a situation where for all future administrations, the practice becomes we simply preemptively pardon everybody who worked for us, whether they did anything bad or not. And that creates an expectation among one's presidential employees that you can do pretty much any darn thing you want to, any awful
Let me
thing.
jump in to tease out your point. When Paul says, well, Trump term 1 already pardoned a bunch of political folks, your response here right now is, yes, but it could have been hundreds or thousands, and then you have no deterrent law enforcement effect on federal officials. Is that your argument?
I think that's one argument. I think the more important thing is Paul and I definitely agree that what Trump is offering to do here, and Kash Patel's offering to do, is unprecedented and it's ghastly. Got it. The problem is that pardons don't solve your problem. They don't solve your problem for a number of reasons. First, who are you going to pardon? Just the people on Kash Patel's enemy list. You pardon the people on the January 6th committee. The list of people who could be attacked by the Justice Department is almost endless.
But that's a very lawyerly argument, Frank. I'm going to say it. No offense. It's extremely lawyerly because you could be over-inclusive. You could pardon 300 people, and they're still going to bother other people. But your point would be there should be a type of pardon-based immunity for, say, anyone who investigated Jan 6th, given that it was a national security event and they want to turn it around. What do you say to that?
Well, if you're talking about January the 6th, I mean, the people, for example, let's take an example of the problem. You've got Trump saying, and you had him recorded as saying, okay, all the members of the January 6th committee should be prosecuted. They should be in jail. Okay, that's a horrible thing to say. First of all, those people are in no real risk because they have protection already under the speech and debate clause. But let's assume we pardon them as some sort of preemptive protection. Well, what about all the people who worked on the committee? What about all the witnesses? How big does your list have to be in order to cover the folks you need to cover?
Paul?
Well, I mean, Frank's right that at some point you've got to draw a line. But I think the response is you've got to draw a line, but the fact is that Trump is the one who's forcing us to do the drawing. for myself, if I had to put names on the list, I'd put Liz Cheney, Anthony Fauci, Mark Milley, the highlights of the highlights, who are guaranteed to be in his sights and in Kash Patel's sights. Can we do the staff on the committee? Of course we could. But the fact that there might be some people who aren't protected by this doesn't mean that you shouldn't make an effort to at least provide what protection you can to the people who you reasonably think might be the most within the ambit of his threat.
Let me move it back to Frank.
They can say no.
All right, so I got to moderate. It's three lawyers. Moving off the practicality, Frank, what is the other argument? You mentioned precedent and just sort of the larger, almost scale of U.S. governance beyond the practical concern you mentioned.
Well, the other thing I want to mention really is a practical one, and it goes back, frankly, to all the reporting that you did at the top of the hour. What is the point, do you think, of Trump's threats, of Patel's threats? Well, A, it's to state Trump's thirst for revenge. B, it's to provide, some material for the right-wing media. But the real point of it is to create intimidation. It's to create fear. It's to modify people's behavior. Okay. You don't need the Department of Justice or the criminal justice process to do that. If our whole argument here, our discussion is premised on the notion that Trump is going to misuse the law in every way he conceivably can think of doing so. And you led this story with infinite number of circumstances of uses of federal power and law that aren't criminal at all,
now
but are going to be quite effective.
I'm rolling over on time. Paul, you get a mini closed. 2 sentences, sorry.
Save who you can when you can. Frank's right that I can't stop state criminal prosecutions or civil suits, but what we can do is protect the people who deserve it, morally and ethically.
Really interesting. This is how this works. We actually set aside quite a bit of time, but now we're approaching the half-hour mark. I'd love to have you both back, Paul and Frank, a civil and expert debate. Appreciate both of you. If people are wondering why we're running out of time, we got the Muppets coming up. Ron Howard is here by the end of the hour. That's going to be great. But first, Republicans doubling down on crime. This is different than the top story we mentioned, but something I want to show you for the record before we get to the Muppets by the end of the hour.
Can a body wash transform your chest, arms, legs? It's Olay Body Wash with skincare ingredients and 10 times more vitamin B3 complex. So in 14 days, see visibly better skin. Olay Body Wash. Discover yours.
New Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold or Flu Fizzy Chews. Chew, fizz. Feel better fast. No water needed. New Alka-Seltzer Plus Fizzy Chews.
Well, would you look at that?
Jerry, you gotta see this.
Saying it. Trust me, after 15 walks, gets a little old. Yeah, I really should be retired by now. Wish I invested when I had the chance. To the moon. Unbelievable.
Stop waiting. Start investing. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley.
For more than a decade, Farxiga has been trusted again and again and again.
Farxiga.
Ask your doctor about Farxiga.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you with clearer skin. With Tremfya, most people saw 100% clear skin that stayed clear, even at 5 years.
Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections.
extremist groups throughout the United States. Together, we can push back against this wave of hate and extremism.
Become a friend of the center today. Call or go online to helpfighthate.org right now.
For plant-based healthy blood pressure support, there's one brand at Walmart that stands above the rest. It's Super Beets. Discover why more cardiologists recommend Super Beets for heart health support than any other beet brand at superbeets.com.
Kind of needs to be more squiggly. Perfect. So now, do you have a driver's license?
Oh, what did you get us?
With the click of a pen, you can get a new Volkswagen at the Sign Then Drive event. Lease a 2024 Tiguan for 0 down, 0 deposit, 0 first month's payment, and 0 due at signing. Limited inventory available.
Patients who have sensitive teeth but also want whiter teeth, they have to make a choice, one versus the other. New Sensodyne Clinical White that provides 2 shades whiter teeth as well as providing 24/7 sensitivity protection. Patients are going to love to see Sensodyne on the shelf.
Sounds like you need to vaporize that cold.
NyQuil Vapor Cool?
It's NyQuil plus a rush of Vicks Vapors.
NyQuil Vapor Cool, the vaporizing nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, best sleep with a cold medicine.
Ready to party? I'm talking about Jackpot Party, the leading free-to-play mobile slots game that always gives you more. More Vegas action, more casino favorites. And the latest slots. Play Jackpot Party and win amazing surprises just for logging in. Download Jackpot Party for free and get a 45 million coin bonus. Jackpot Party, a party in every spin.
It's a lot to be a caregiver and a daughter because you kind of have to take a step back. Getting some help would be a great relief.
From companions to helpers to caregivers, find all the senior care you need at care.com.
Turning to something important and a little different, young people and even children are spending more time on screens than any other era in history. You probably know that. It sparked questions about childhood development, mental health, psychology, and education. Which brings us to a beloved TV series that applies some education principles. Both the Muppets and Sesame Street, created by the legendary creator Jim Henson, are actually profiled in a documentary that explores his vision. And it's by a celebrated director, Ron Howard, who began his career as a child actor, actually, if you remember all the way back to The Andy Griffith Show. He grew into an adult career directing dozens of acclaimed films, including the Oscar winner A Beautiful Mind. And he's discussing his work and the power of the Muppets. You tell Jim Henson's story. We learned that some of what he was making was not necessarily only going to be designed for kids.
Right. Well, most of it.
Most of it.
In the beginning.
Although, boy, did kids love it.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is he wasn't interested in puppets. He was a young, creative guy in Mississippi, then moved closer to Washington. And he loved television. And he just wanted to find a way to get on television. We have these hilarious interviews that Orson Welles did, of all people, and out of it you learn that he'd never even played with puppets as a kid, but that was a way in to the local television station. He took it, created his own puppets, and he was a very introverted guy, and I think he became an extrovert when he got one of these puppets on his hand, and he was funny. He was funny, he was satirical, but really accessible, and he just grew his talent, with puppetry, but he was also very experimental.
You had icons from all aspects of life joining.
Someone and his friends are here with someone very, very special. Spending the day with the First Lady, Mrs. Michelle Obama.
Hi, everyone.
Are you ready, Bert?
Oh, I am prepared to wail, Ray.
Right on. What about you, Ernie?
Oh, anytime, Ray.
Hello, I'm Adam. Wow, that is a lot of noise you're making there, buddy.
Yeah, I got it. You're Johnny Flash.
Johnny Cash.
Hi.
Hi.
Wanna play tag?
Sure, you're it.
Oh, I'ma keep my head up high. Keep on reaching high.
Wonderful. The question is, what does it mean to kids to see their fantasy puppet world intersect with the real world?
Right.
And in a world that is run by adults, you know how it is. You know, these governments, it's all adults, Ron.
Yeah,
and some of them are even on the older side, although we love everybody. But what does it mean to have material, culture, that is actually produced and shared for kids, so kids might have a little piece of it as they grow up?
Well, I think it means so much, and of course, when Sesame Street came along, it was revolutionary because there were some terrific shows, and Captain Kangaroo and Romper Room and things like that were aimed at kids and trying to sort of inspire them to play and be thoughtful and those kinds of things, but they were super gentle. They skewed very young, and when they got Jim Henson involved with Sesame Street, here was somebody who wanted to be funny. He wanted to be entertaining, wanted to use his puppets in that way, and didn't necessarily think of himself as an educator, but he had a great heart. But he had been in the commercial business for 15 years, and he used a lot of the sensibilities of selling ideas, which he had learned to do, didn't particularly love doing it, but he knew it was effective through humor, through the puppets, through fantasy, that you could teach learning ideas. You could sell learning to kids. And that was, sort of his pitch.
I'm going to move you on to your own movies. Right. I know you want to talk about the latest film, but a lot of people know you from all these other cool films, and it's your first time on the beat, so let's take a look.
Thank you.
This humiliation could change my entire outlook on life.
Really?
No.
I'm saying that when the president does it, that means it's not illegal.
I don't believe in luck. But I do believe in assigning value to things.
Do you still have as much fun making movies now as the old days? The industry's under a lot of pressure. We were just talking about that in the break.
Well, it's hard. It's challenging. Brian Grazer and I at Imagine, are finding it exciting because there are sort of more ways to get interesting projects done. And yet, the challenge of sort of getting something greenlit is probably, more extreme than it's ever been.
Final question is the shortest.
Right.
Are you more Kermit or more Miss Piggy?
Oh, no, I'm Kermit. I'm Kermit.
Kermit all the way.
Yeah. Jim Henson, that was his alter ego. I relate to that. Kermit was a, pretty nice guy trying to make sense of a bunch of crazies around him. I feel like I fall into that category.
And don't we love Kermit because we see him going through it sometimes?
Yeah, getting frustrated and losing it. Yeah. He doesn't always say the nicest thing, but his heart's in the right place, isn't it?
I think so. We love Kermit, and I appreciate Ron Howard telling us about his inner Kermit. You can find our Summit series online there. Up next, Supreme Court ethics scandals, the gift that keeps on taking.
Vicks VapoStick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors. Easy to apply for the whole family. Vicks VapoStick. And try new Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors.
You make good choices. It's a trait that runs deep. Like to step into big shoes and still walk on your own path. With ambition like that, you need someone who elevates advice to a craft. At UBS, we match your vision with insight and expertise to shape a unique outcome for you. Advice is our craft.
For plant-based healthy blood pressure support, there's one brand at Walmart that stands above the rest. It's Super Beets. Discover why more cardiologists recommend Super Beets for heart health support than any other beet brand at superbeets.com.
I told myself I was okay with my moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis symptoms.
With my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. But just okay isn't okay.
And I was done settling.
If you still have symptoms after trying a TNF blocker like Humira or Enbrel, Rinvoq works differently. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill that can rapidly relieve joint pain, stiffness, and swelling as fast as 2 weeks for some. And even at the 3-year mark, many people felt this relief. Rinvoq can stop joint damage and in PSA can leave skin clear or almost clear.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers including lymphoma and skin, serious allergic reactions, GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occurred. CV event risk increases in age 50 plus with a heart disease risk factor. Tell your doctor if you've had these events, infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant, or planning. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Done settling?
Ask your rheumatologist for Rinvoq.
And take back what's yours.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's high absorption magnesium glycinate helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Tangazo hili linahusu njaa. Tarajia kuona watoto wakiwa na njaa katika maeneo haya. Mambo yalikuwa bora kwa miaka mingi. Tuliweza kupigana na njaa na watoto wachache walikufa. Lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika na kwa mabaya zaidi. Hii ni kwa sababu wakati huu ukame umeangamiza zaidi.
The impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
Toto kote duniani potrzebuють вашої допомоги.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
Vicks VapoStick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors. Easy to apply for the whole family. Vicks VapoStick. And try new Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors.
Here's a little update. A federal judge was found to have violated judicial ethics rules, but the offense was criticizing Supreme Court Justice
And rash of moderate to severe eczema disrupts my skin night and day. Despite treatment, it's still not under control. But now I have Rinvoq. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill that reduces the itch and helps clear the rash of eczema fast. Some taking Rinvoq felt significant itch relief as early as 2 days, and some achieved dramatic skin clearance as early as 2 weeks. Many saw clear or almost clear skin.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers including lymphoma and skin, serious allergic reactions, GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occurred. CV event risk increases in age 50 plus with a heart disease risk factor. Tell your doctor if you've had these events. Infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant, or planning. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Disrupt the itch and rash of eczema. Talk to your dermatologist about Rinvoq.
Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Asthma. Does it have you missing out on what you love with who you love? It's time to get back out there with Fasenra. Fasenra is an add-on treatment for eosinophilic asthma that is taken once every 8 weeks and can also be taken conveniently at home. Fasenra helps prevent asthma attacks. Most patients did not have an attack in the first year. Fasenra is proven to help you breathe better so you can get back to doing day-to-day activities. Fasenra is not for sudden breathing problems. Serious allergic reactions may occur. Get help for swelling of your face, mouth, tongue, or trouble breathing. Don't stop asthma treatments without talking with your doctor. Tell your doctor if your asthma worsens or you have a parasitic infection. Headache and sore throat may occur. Get back to better breathing. Get back to what you've missed. Ask your doctor about Fasenra, the only asthma treatment taken once every 8 weeks. If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Vicks VapoStick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors. Easy to apply for the whole family. Vicks VapoStick. And try new Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors.
These are turbulent times. And while I can't necessarily give them good news all the time, if people can feel like they are informed and they're ready for the day tomorrow, then I certainly hope we can help give them a good night's sleep. I take that job seriously.
Stay informed on the biggest issues of the day. MSNBC has you covered wherever you are. Watch, read, and listen. For the in-depth coverage and analysis you need, stay with MSNBC.
We planned well for retirement, but I wish we had more cash.
You think those two have any idea that they can sell their life insurance policy for cash, so they're basically sitting on a gold mine? I don't think they have a clue. That's crazy. Well, not everyone knows Coventry has helped thousands of people sell their policies for cash, even term policies. I can't believe they're just sitting up there, sitting on all this cash.
If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you can sell all or part of it to Coventry, even a term policy, for cash or a combination of cash and coverage with no future premiums.
Someone needs to tell them that they're sitting on a gold mine and you have no idea. Hey, guys! You're sitting on a gold mine! Come on,
Do you hear that?
I don't hear anything anymore.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-459-2600 or visit coventrydirect.com.
Turning to a little bit of history in the making, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson took center stage on Broadway. This was Saturday night, her debut in the play And Juliet. Here's that moment.
Show me the meaning of being lonely. Is this the feeling I need to walk with?
Female empowerment.
Art imitates life. Justice Jackson was performing before a sold-out crowd. And we checked. She wrote in her memoir she actually hoped to become the first black female Supreme Court justice to appear on a Broadway stage. Just as we were discussing with Ron Howard, the art we make and interpret can be inspiring, and clearly this is something in her off time that she enjoys in the arts. A life goal, maybe not as big as making the high court, but a good one. Now, if you watched the whole show, you might have seen Ron Howard and I discuss Jim Henson's characters and whether he was more of a Kermie or more of a Miss Piggy. This is just some of the footage from that great documentary, and there they are. I ask you tonight for social media, if you want to play along, are you more of a Kermie or more of a Miss Piggy? And you can't say it depends on the day or what's going on at home or work. Which are you? I will give you mine. I've always felt like more of a Kermie. Tell me your answer at Ari Melber on any of the social media there, at Ari Melber if you use those platforms, or you can always subscribe to my newsletter, where I take a break from news and politics and discuss art and culture. You can get those free essays by email by giving me your email at arimelber.com. And tell me your Kermie or Miss Piggy vote at any of the social media you use. That does it for us. The Readout is up next.
Tonight on The Readout.
Obviously, he's not going to concede
when at least 600,000 ballots are in question. The call for Joe Biden is it? Who was it called by? Oh my goodness, all the networks. Wow. All the networks.
Ah, Dignity, where have you gone? That was 4 years ago, outside Four Seasons total landscaping, as Trump's team tried to undermine the vote. Now they are preparing to take power, including Pam Bondi, who was a key player in Trump's election interference effort. Also tonight, Trump demands compliance from the courts, the media, even foreign leaders. And he's trying to silence any dissent by filing nonsense lawsuits. Plus, the polio vaccine has protected tens of millions of children from paralysis. And today, perhaps America's most famous vaccine skeptic, RFK Jr., met with lawmakers in his effort to become this country's top health official. But we begin tonight with United States Code Title 3, Chapter 1, Section 7, Meeting and Vote of Electors, where it is written, the electors of President and Vice President of each state shall meet and give their votes on the first Tuesday after the second Wednesday in December next, following their appointment at such place in such state in accordance with the laws of the state enacted prior to Election Day. That day, which happens to be today, is better known as the meeting of the Electoral College, when electors from all 50 states meet to cast their official vote